Well, good afternoon. I'll see now. I'll make you all stand up and do this. Good afternoon, everyone. Awesome. It's great to be here. I don't know if any of you have been outside, but I am not staying here and trying to get here. I could have probably flown because the wind is so bad out there right now. So be safe this afternoon. It is an honor to be back here at Health 2.0. And I want to share a little bit. What that's from. Lion King, Lion King. And we're going to talk about ecosystems today. And I want to start to give you a little bit of a journey about who I am and why this is so passionate to me. There I am, 19 years old, the guy sitting at the piano. And I was a musical prodigy, graduated high school in 1991. Went on to study jazz studies and piano and voice, and then traveled professionally for about 10 years. And you'll see my career journey here why maybe some of this becomes passion for me. When I quit traveling, I went to work for this little company. I gave a little bit of a hint, but how many of you guys know about Walt Disney? Any Disney fans in the room? Any big Disney? Okay, well, I'm going to actually give you a perspective of Disney today. So, I was very honored from 2005 to 2012 to work for the Walt Disney Company. I worked for Disney Cruise Line for 2.5 of those years, and then I became a Walt Disney Imagineer. Anyone in the room know what a Walt Disney Imagineer is? Everything. Yeah, they are the creative piece to everything at Disney, for a concept called from blue sky to implementation. So if you go to a Disney resort, if you go on a ride, if you have been in Orlando to Winnie and Arnold Palmer Children's and Women's Hospital, that was designed by Imagineers. I was really fortunate during my time at Walt Disney to be part of a team that brought to life a book, What If Disney Ran Your Hospital? Anybody read that in here yet? If you haven't, you need to read it. It's the concepts of why Disney should run healthcare. And people say, well, Disney's all about entertainment. I can tell you that Disney is a more highly regulated industry than healthcare is. Because you have to think that about 300,000 people a day just at Walt Disney World ride a ride. How many of you in the past couple of weeks saw the tragic news in Orlando, Florida, a park there called Icon Park, where the 14-year-old boy plummeted to his death because someone went around quality and safety? The young man was a football player. He was 6'3" and weighed 340 pounds. I am 6'1" and weigh 320 pounds, and I know not to get on those rides because they're not made for that weight limit. But a ride operator surpassed safety and let that young man on. Highly, highly regulated industry. So, what happens, my next step in my life takes me to this company. How many of you know this company? I was hired at Humana. And I was hired at Humana to focus on member experience. and starting to put the human at the center of everything healthcare related. It's when it became really popular about 10 years ago. And then I was recruited to this organization, which is a higher ed university, where I was actually the first chief innovation officer in the country for a university, and it's Davie University in Cincinnati, Ohio. And it was to focus on non-traditional revenue streams. So, does that make a logical career path, right? Doesn't everyone do that? Well, that's kind of what I thought for a long time. Here goes to the story now. I want to introduce you to my family. Yes, we are still Disney buffs to this day. That's my wife and I. That was in January of 2020, right before the pandemic. We were on a Star Wars cruise. Yes, I wear my Darth Vader shirt. She actually dressed up, yes. And then that's my wife and I up in the top left with our two children, Kayla and Colby. And then I am a huge Kentucky basketball fan. I tell everybody that. Let's not talk about this year's March Madness, what happened. And then again, there is Kayla and Colby walking on the beach in June of last year in Hawaii. And I want to bring to life Colby for you. There he is, my man Colby. He is 6.5, so 6 years old. He has childhood apraxia, autism, and just recently diagnosed with childhood epilepsy. So it seems like the world's against him to some people. And he was born 10 weeks early. And so he started out, he was actually born in Phoenix, Arizona. He weighed a little over 2.5 pounds. When I saw him when he was 10 days old for the first time, I could put him in the palm of my hand. So both of our children are adopted. And my daughter deals with so much of what you guys just talked about in the previous one. So I'm telling you from a patient side, a lot of what you need to hear. My daughter is 13, went through severe mental anxiety, depression during the pandemic because she is an extrovert. And here she had to go to school at home. And he just degressed unbelievably to us. It was actually quite frightening for us. He's all boy. Things that Colby likes. The game Minecraft, if you know anything about that. Legos and blocks, and he loves Mickey Mouse. And when he grows up, he wants to be a rock star. He wants to be an engineer. I haven't figured out how he's going to be a rock star and an engineer at the same time, and a gamer. So I want you to remember Colby as we walk through what we call the experience ecosystem and why this is so important. Organizations are more than org charts, strategy documents, mission statements. They're living, breathing ecosystems filled with people, touch points, and systems. And I believe that in March of 2020, the healthcare industry got slapped upside the head and realized, and I will boldly say this, I say it at many healthcare conferences that I speak at, that the healthcare system we realized in 2020 was totally built for one thing, and it was to pay claims and not take care of people. That's someone who worked for Humana, right? So an insurance company. All of a sudden, how do we handle all of these humans and what's going on? Do I think that we saw neurodiversity rise? You will also hear me say today, and I'm begging you as an industry, please quit calling it mental health. That stigma is incredibly hard to live with for people. And I do a ton of qualitative research, so I'm trained in ethnographic research. So the term neurodiverse is much more appealing because I am a neurodiverse advocate. Not only do I have 2 children, but I have adult ADHD. The pandemic, as a small business owner, I heard our dentist, as a small business owner, was the most stressful time in my life. I had to go on medication to help with my anxiety, to help with my depression. So, all of this comes to life. And I don't know if you can depict what's happening over there on the left, but it says, our silo mentality may be getting out of hand. And there's alligators swimming around the moat of people. How many agree in here that healthcare is siloed? So let's talk about the experience ecosystem, the web of people, touchpoints, and systems that combined to define the experiences of the people in the ecosystem. To leverage experience as a competitive advantage. And I'm going to ask you guys some questions here in a minute. One that increases engagement, loyalty, and revenue year after year requires aligning, engaging, and humanizing the entire ecosystem. That is the definition. We have trademarked this concept because during the pandemic, my business partner and I were out walking in February of last year, and we were talking about how do we get people to understand this? And one of the questions I get frequently is, how does Disney do it? Well, how does Disney have this incredible experience? How Disney does it, and many other organizations, is they actually align around an ecosystem approach. So what do you see in the very center of this ecosystem? There's people, right? We talk about being a patient-centric industry, and listen, 95% of my business is in healthcare. And I've worked in the industry. We talk about being patient-centric. We talk about being patient-centered care, human-centric. I call bullshit on that today, because we are not an industry that is patient-centric or human-centric in any way, fashion, or form as an industry. There are pockets, yes, but as an industry, we still don't have it together. So here's what an ecosystem might look like. Up on top, customer experience. Digital experience. Anyone work in IT in here? I know, right? Supply chain integration, leadership and culture, marketplace awareness, vendor relations, brand loyalty and messaging, and employee experience. How many organizations work in healthcare that all of these teams are siloed and don't necessarily work together? Right? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So yeah, you can, right? That is not how you get a successful experience ecosystem. Now, I'll talk about just for a moment marketplace awareness. How many days in your life do you spend sitting in a meeting and within your organization with the same people talking about the same thing? I see people in heads, right? Right? We as an industry also don't want to invite others into our industry, right? We don't want people out there. But let me say this to you. Let's take the banking industry, for example, and we have, from an IT perspective. Is it okay if 99.99% of the time your bank gets your deposits right? Well, why not? 100%, right? Why is 99.99% of the time not right? Okay. Trust? Process. Right? But yet we're still trying to figure out digital experience in the healthcare space when there's a whole industry that's figured out digital experience. Right? Banks get it right 100% of the time. And if they don't, what do? You call them, and they fix it. Any American Express people in here? Right? I love American Express. They won me over with their customer service. They could probably do something wrong financially, and I would still stay with them because I have a trust in them. And there's trust happening in these ecosystems. But this is all we need to remember, that when people are involved, things get messy, and it's time to rethink our approach. Reimagine our relationships and redesign our experiences within healthcare. Put humans at the middle of everything we do. And the result is this: a stronger organization whose people are able to make a profitable, sustainable impact on the world. So, we're going to do some shouting out here, because I want you to start thinking about you and your organization. What word do people typically use to describe your organization? You can say it out loud here. Friendly. Friendly? What I hear over here? Okay. What else? Integrated. Quality. And how do you know that people are saying this about your organization?
Because I'm right down there in the front with them.
You're down in the front with them.
The last 25 years.
Awesome. Because they post it. Surveys. HCAP surveys? CSAT surveys? What type of surveys? What type of surveys do you get in your organization? Is it for HCAP? Is it for CSAT? Or is it NPS? Or none of those letters.
I don't know what that means.
Great. That's actually good because I am a big believer in surveys for the right reasons. And I will tell you this from an experience standpoint. When is the last time you drove your car looking in the rearview mirror? Well, why not? That's what we do with surveys. We're always looking in the rearview mirror. We're not looking at what's happening today. That's always a fun thing to say at a marketing conference, right? Because so many people in organizations bet on net promoter scores. Net promoter score is built to look in the rearview mirror, not what's happening today. So think about that from the human experience. The decision I make today on experience is all based off of probably what happens with my experience here on my cell phone. And when we start creating healthcare experiences that meet our expectations, like we get on a cell phone, then we started to name it and get it right. And people are like, but you can't do that. We have people. Yes, you can. And there's all organizations that do it. So, let me go to next question. Name a company with an amazing experience. Shout them out to me. Besides Disney.
Well, it's for short term, and I would say that probably after the next 2 years, but Amazon.
Amazon?
Right now. 2
Okay.
years later, no. It'll be out.
Yeah. Amazon, who else? Great experience. Nordstrom. I don't like Nordstrom because they have a personal shopper and she calls my house frequently. And she says, Mrs. Nason, we didn't put a box together that we're sending to you. Right? And And that box shows up. And she goes, oh, look, a new dress, a new pair of shoes, right? But it's a great experience. Nordstrom understands as well how to take care of families with special needs. So they, like the personal shopper aspect, they understand my wife has a son with autism. For her to go in shopping is stressful. Her husband's on the road 50 to 75% of the time. So it's great when the personal shopper puts stuff together, puts in a box, sends it. If she wants to keep it, great. If she doesn't, she sends it back. Stress out of it. How much more do you think we buy from Nordstrom's than we do from any place else? Right? Loyalty. This whole concept, you hear it right now in healthcare, personalization. Right? Hyper-personalization is what we've got to get to in healthcare. Not just personalization. Hyper-personalization. Go look that up, because that's a whole nother talk that we can have. But, all right, Nordstrom, Amazon. Anyone over here? Shady Rays. What is Shady Rays? Sunglasses. Okay? Had a great experience with them? Yeah. Yep. Great. And you'll always buy from them. Right? And if they raise your prices, does it matter? Yes, I love it. Okay, so let's talk about this, right? Now, you're talking to the man who, if you know anything and are friends with me, you know that my morning starts off with the Chick-fil-A Diet Coke 6 days a week, and God, I wish it could be 7 days a week, but I also understand, as an organization, why they close on Sunday, right? So, Chick-fil-A. How many like Chick-fil-A in here? Why do you go there?
They're super friendly and it's always delicious.
Super friendly, always delicious, excellent service, quality. Now, is it always at 100% of the time? So far. Not always, but because of the trust factor again. And I will tell you a little bit, I was very fortunate to work with the Truitt family at Chick-fil-A on a project as well. They very much believe in the Disney way. They've implemented much of the Disney way. And I actually worked with them with one of our largest retailers in the country who is in the top 5, but I can't say their name, but they have a nice little spark. And we all worked together on a healthcare project. All right, so let me ask you this. Name a company with an absolute horrible experience. What one? Spirit Airlines. Who's flown on them in the past couple of weeks since they've canceled like 600 flights? Right? Yeah, I see a lot of talking about Spirit. Do we need to go to the bar now? Do we just need to stop? And like, if she's going through PTSD back here, we need some, right? So, Spirit Airlines. What else? Penske. Why? But they let you make a reservation for a truck. I'm a businessman. I spend 75% of my life on the road. What about rental car companies? Certain. So you find those and you hold on to those, right? Yeah. Healthcare. You know, we're still, after all the work for 10 years we've put in to becoming patient-centric, we're still barely above cable companies. Right? Huh? Cable companies. Yes. Right? Like, I'd rather just do that than deal with a cable company. Awful. All right. I'm trying to be very aware of time here, too. And anyone that wants any of this information, I am more than happy to send it to you. You need to start, as an organization, to look at this very simple diagram. High trust, low trust, transactional, relational. Where do you think you want to be on this? Up or right? How many companies is there do you know that you have high trust in and relational? Few. Right? Shouldn't healthcare be there? But where would you probably put healthcare? So I do think that there are people, typically bottom left, or I do think there are people that have a lot of trust in healthcare, but still very much moving it on a transactional basis. Yes, yes, yeah. Let me see what the next one, I may skip through these next ones. This one I can give you guys, that's just more on that. So, how might we strengthen our experience ecosystem together as an industry and as an organization? And I want to make sure that I left like 2 or 3 minutes here. Any questions about what I asked? I hate to make you come up here. It's small enough and we're all loud enough. I think you can say the question. But any questions on what I have touched points at today? Yeah. Yeah, so this is an interesting concept that I really wish we could figure out in healthcare, because if you go to other countries outside of the U.S., they've got this pretty well figured out in some way, fashion. I think the way we have to start blowing up silos is truly understanding what your consumer or your customer wants. That's when I still go back to saying, we remember our last interaction on our cell phones, right? All this is always a positive. Now, it's interesting to me, how many of you are Apple fans? How many of you have had all 12 Apple phones? Right, I have my collection, right? When you buy your Apple phone, do you know that it's not going to work 100% right? Right? So why do we do it? So it works more than the other ones, and we have high trust and high relations, right? That's why I have an iPad, a Mac Air, a Mac Pro, 2 Mac Pros that are just mine. My wife has one, and my daughter has one. Like we are an Apple store when you walk into our home. But it's because we have high trust in them, and if it's broken, they fix it. Right? They figured out actually how to take an ecosystem and bring everyone into their ecosystem and alleviate all silos, right? Why don't we just take our guard down in healthcare and invite a bunch of people to the table and say, let's fix this? I know it sounds really simple, but it really is that simple. And I don't understand why we don't. Yeah. Another question? Comment?
Do you think that reforming the healthcare is a daunting financial task, or is it something that you can do with the current resources without actually increasing the financial burden?
So I'll make this with one simple. And the question was, do we think we can do healthcare reform without a financial daunting financially on the industry? I think we need some daunting financial things in the industry to wake us up. Prime example. Anyone know what Mark Cuban's doing these days? Do you know who Mark Cuban is? Billionaire, Shark Tank, owns the Dallas Mavericks. Launched a pharmacy company a month ago, took oncology drugs that used to cost $25,000 for a patient, put them on the market for $40. Do you not think the pharmacy industry is going, what the, right? I worked for an insurance company. I'll leave with this story here. A year ago, I had to have oral surgery done. So, it reminded me of my dentist. I walked in on the day of oral surgery, and they said it'll be $900 with your insurance. I said, great. I know healthcare. I stopped, and I said, but can you tell me something? Can you tell me what the cash-based price is? She said, well, absolutely, Mr. Nason, it's $500. I said, it's $500 for me to pay cash, or it's $900 for me to hand you my insurance card and the same credit card. Don't tell me we don't have a ton of administrative cost in the healthcare system that needs to be taken away. I've studied the industry. I've worked within the industry. We need a financial shakeup, and the money needs to go to where it needs to go. And yes, we need to do research. I'm not saying all those things, but there's a lot of wasted money in our system today. So I know I think we're going to break. I will be happy. I've got cards to talk to you guys before we finish. But thank you all, and we'll see you later.